Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Edge of Liberty. Join me right here on the SHR Media Network every Monday and Friday, 12 on the Pacific, 3 on the East Coast. On this show, we'll discuss news, politics, the government, how cranky we are about the government, and more. If you want to hear hard talk, good interviews, sarcasm, bad jokes, and, oh, God, that really is me in a nutshell. Either way, check me out right here on the Edge of Liberty every Monday and Friday, 12 Pacific, 3 on the East, on the SHR Media Network. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thank you so much for joining me here on the Edge of Liberty on the SHR Media Network. It is Friday. You made it. You made it. The weekend's here. It's time for some cocktails. We'll get to that at the end of the show. I'm sorry I look like this. I've tried to change it, but I can't afford it. We have a ton to talk about. Those of you who are watching the Trump rally in Aurora, thank you for joining us. I don't know if you can hear the background music. This new board, I got a wonderful new board. It's a Zoom P8. Part of it is you get preloaded. You can preload some sounds into it and music and whatnot, which I have done. But I don't know if you can hear it because I tried testing it. And on my end, everything shows up okay. I just don't know how it is on your end. Hey, super cool. And this is something that's new this show. I know I did a little kind of premiere yesterday. But this is my first live show on KLRN Radio. If you don't, check them out. They're on XKLRN. You can also go to the website, klrn.com. Bunch of awesome folk over there. I thank them so much for being so welcoming to me. Thank you to Rick for being Rick. He's always been super cool. He's always been super friendly. They carried me before when I was on SHR years ago, and now that I'm back, they're carrying it again. And that means the world to me. I cannot say thank you enough. Just the interactions, talking to the other hosts and the writers and just everybody over at KLRN. It's really been a wonderful experience in the last few days since we kind of worked out our agreement. So to be simulcast on SHR Media and carried on KLRN, it's just an honor and a privilege. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. For everyone who knows me, I'm usually a sarcastic jerk. Make a lot of jokes, ha ha ha. But this one I truly mean. So thank you, folks, and it's a pleasure. I do want to start, man. It has been, the closer we get to this election, man, just the crazier stuff is. So last week, and I know I talked about it a little bit, there was an allegation that Doug Emhoff, the second gentleman, was not so gentleman-like, where it came out that he allegedly slapped his girlfriend way back in the day at the Cairns Film Festival because she tapped somebody on the shoulder at a valet. He was intoxicated. There's also been other allegations. Now, remember, he's reshaping masculinity, right? We talked about that. Jen Psaki talked about it, talked about the interview the next day. It drops that he is a domestic abuser, allegedly. I say allegedly because of the lawsuits. I want to avoid them. But then it also came out that while he was working for his law firm, he hired a really young, attractive part-time model to be his assistant. He was apparently very condescending and misogynistic, which is so unlike somebody whose title is gentleman, the second one. But, as we say all the time with a lot of liberals, whatever they're accusing you of, they're doing themselves. And that's not just tongue in cheek. It happens all the time. And this is another one, right? We're told to believe all women. We're told by the left, or you get canceled. You get canceled, right? They're still canceling people. It's just not really like sexy anymore to talk about, but it's still happening here and there. But now we go to Dougie Doug. Now, I'll tell you right now, if I was ever accused of any crime, really, that I didn't commit, but specifically a domestic violence thing, I would be denying that to the hilt. I would be passionate about it. If I was famous, I would have released a statement about it. I would have had my lawyers release a statement in front of it. I would do everything I can to expose my innocence to a false accusation. That's what I would do. And I know there's a borderline between, protesting too much because that seems guilty, but I would still just not ignore it. And then when you finally get called out on it, or when you finally feel like you have to deal with it, this is a better way of putting it. It's finally gaining enough traction because mainstream media ignored all of this crap, as they always do. Right? Doug's he's a good guy. He's one of the good guys. So we don't talk about it. Right? So when it gets to the point that there is enough scuttlebutt, if you will, then you have to talk about it on some level. So what do? You go to a friendly media site. You go to a friendly journalist. You go to somebody who will protect you and ask you the right questions. And of course, that's what Doug did.
Spreading it about you, saying that tabloid stories about your personal life, saying it should be front and center. He's saying it about your wife and making incredibly crude and lewd suggestions about her past life. I'm just curious. I know I seem like a very zen, mindful person, but I think I'd be pissed off. And I'm just wondering, how do you all stay centered? How do you stay disciplined and not really go off and not really push back hard at these things?
We don't have time to be pissed off. We don't have time to focus on it. It's all a distraction. It's designed to try to get us off our game.
It's all a distraction, he says. All a distraction. Now, by the way, Joe Scarborough, I'm not going to get into it. I want you to go, and you can Google what happened in Joe Scarborough's congressional office. I don't know if he's exactly the guy I would actually want to be on the forefront of this. But whatevs. Dougie Doug makes his choices. And we know, Doug's motto is essentially, until proven otherwise. These are all allegations. I get it. But, he impregnated a nanny. He allegedly was incredibly just the world's biggest jerk at the law firm. Now he's allegedly slapped this woman around. So, I guess Doug's should just say, hey, me, knock him up and knock him out. That's just really where we're at now. Because, he didn't even deny it. That's what's weird, right? He did not deny it. He did not say, I didn't do it. He didn't say these are all false allegations. Oh, this is a distraction. And you notice how Joe sets himself up. This is one of the things I love that media does, and they do it well. Joe sets himself up to be, I'm a Zen guy, but I'd be pissed off. He's unhinged, right? He's being the bad cop so Doug can be the good victim. And that's exactly what they did. Doug, it's just distraction. It's not no. This isn't a distraction per se. This is an allegation. Now, let's be honest. If this allegation was made against Trump or any conservative, right, they'd go absolutely crazy for it. They'd go insane for it. The media would be licking their chops to try to expose this. And this is, I'm not more angry at the media than I am at the guy who is the alleged abuser. So I won't say that. But I'm pretty aggravated with how media handles this stuff. There's no fair shake. Morning Joe, the stuff that Morning Joe has said and alleged against Trump. And he said, the other thing too that Joe Scarborough threw in there is he says these horrible things about your wife. Joe, all that's been confirmed. Whether you like it or not, Kamala got her start via Willie Brown. That's how she got her run in politics. We saw the video, right? Is this your wife? And Kamala was, no, right? Just own it. I mean, that's the thing that politicians don't seem to understand or comprehend. The same thing that happened when Biden got aggravated yesterday or 2 days ago when somebody asked him about the Hurricane Milton FEMA response and Helene FEMA response. Why don't you ask Trump? Go ask that guy. Dude. Or then he denies everything. That's the other thing politicians do. And it's the dumbest approach. I teach my children this about lying. If you just tell me the truth, even if you screw it up, it's going to be a lot easier. We can get through the problem a lot quicker. This is basic how you talk to children 101. All you got to do is just tell the truth. And then a lot of this goes away. We can fix problems. Same thing with the Helene response. We could have fixed if they just came out and said, hey, we screwed up. We made a couple mistakes. We're trying to rectify it. Guess what? The problem goes away. It really does. Because then what's people's response? Well, you going to hurry up? Yeah, we're doing that now. Are you sorry? Yeah. Yeah, we screwed up. It sucks. I'm sorry. That's it. That's all you got to do. And so much of the story goes away. The same thing with Emhoff. Did you do it? Yeah, I mean, I was in a really bad place. It doesn't excuse it, but at least there's an answer to the story, and they refuse to do it. So now the story is going to linger, and I guarantee you more truth will come out sometime around November 6th or 7th. So while we're on the Kamala campaign, I get a lot for Kamala this week, more than I probably want to ever talk about Kamala Harris in my life, but I kind of need to. She's struggling with certain demographics, specifically males, more specifically black males. The numbers are down, way down. How far down are they? You might ask yourself. Well, so far down that this happened. You see, this is the former President Barack Obama about to do a speech for her where he asked if Trump ever changed a diaper, as if that was somehow making him eligible or ineligible to be president, but that's neither here nor there. He's speaking to a group of black males here. Listen to what he says.
We have not yet seen the same kinds of energy and turnout in all quarters of our neighborhoods and communities as we saw when I was running. Now, I also want to say that seems to be more pronounced with the brothers.
You can say that now? I get everyone who's going to be like, well, he kind of gets the pass because he is also black, which, by the way, there are so many people on X right now who are saying that he's not. But yeah, I understand what he's saying. I understand what he is doing, right? The numbers amongst black support for males, specifically for Harris, is through the floor, and he's trying to drum it up. The problem is more and more black Americans are disillusioned with the Democratic Party. That's obvious. People of color in general are more and more disillusioned with the Democrat Party. That is, you look at the numbers, Latinos, the numbers are skyrocketing. You even have the reports that Muslims have walked away and they're supporting Trump this election. So they are hemorrhaging the votes that they used to depend on to drag him over the line. It was a given to them. We've talked about this for years. And all of the black conservatives who have been following politics for a long time have said this. The black vote specifically, the Latino vote as well, but the black vote specifically, Democrats always thought was in the bag for them. Always. It was a given. And how bad is it getting? CNN, there's some people who are losing it on CNN.
Elections in Ohio. Right now, the vice president is down 11 points in Ohio, even though I fully expect President Trump to take Ohio as he did twice, but to be down 11 points compared to President Biden, that is a problem. But this other issue I want to bring up is a problem too. Why are black men being lectured to? Why are black men being belittled in ways that no other voting group? Now, a lot of love for former President Obama, but for him to single out black men is wrong. And some of the black men that I have talked to have their reasons why they want to vote a different way. And even if some of us may not like that, we have to respect it. So unless President Barack Obama is going to go out and lecture every other group of men from other identity groups, my message for Democrats is don't bring it here to black men who, by and large, don't vote much differently from black.
I want you to understand what just happened. And Nina Turner, who's the Ohio former senator, essentially what she's saying is you can't blame them for walking away. And you shouldn't lecture them for it, which is smart. But the simple fact that they're putting up like a defense right now about it, and the simple fact that they're like, ooh, like, I know we're hemorrhaging black men, but the problem is you can't be accusatory about it. You can't talk to folks like that about it. What she's saying is stop condescending, belittling, and demeaning them because they are not doing what you want. You need to reach out. You need to speak to them. You need to do it properly. You want to actually engage the black male voter, then go out and engage the black male voter. But don't assume that they're going to be there, and then when they're not, be angry about it. And that's exactly what they're doing. You know, they got Barry off the paddle board, off the vineyard. By the way, it kills me to see Barack Obama be like, oh, yeah, we need more brothers to vote. Dude, you live on the vineyard. You live on the vineyard. Have you ever been to the vineyard? Guess what? There's almost everybody looks like me, just better looking, thinner, has more hair, and a hell of a lot more money. But there ain't a lot of brothers on the vineyard. So stop talking like you're walking around the streets of Chicago. The better way to have done that, in my opinion, would have been like, guys, how are we going to engage black males in this country? What can we do to have them be more involved with Kamala and vote for Kamala? And what is the problem you're seeing from that? Not what's wrong with you, we need more brothers. It's ridiculous. I forgot to start the chat. My apologies. I just noticed that. But it's absolutely insane. They're flailing. And look, I'm going to tell you, if you follow me on X, the number 2 against tyranny, you're going to hear this out of me for the next 25 days. Foot on the gas. Do not relent. Do not buy polls. Do not listen to polls. Do not listen to the betting odds. Nothing. I don't care. We fight like we're behind. If you really want Trump to get in office, you vote like we're behind. Like every vote matters, because it does. No red wave talk. None of that BS that we got in 2022 that hosed us. When people stayed home, I'm still convinced that if people showed up, that would have been a red wave, but y'all got complacent and people stayed home. So none of that talk. Everybody goes. Carpool if you have to. Help friends get there to vote. Do it legally. Don't do anything stupid, because we don't like that. And I hate it. And I the thought of it is nauseating. But everyone has to go. Right? And if the poll numbers are right and the internal polling is right and all that other stuff that we're seeing, then it will be embarrassing for her. That's fine. Let it be embarrassing. That's fine. That's great. We can all go, ha ha. But the idea of letting up now has to be squashed. Don't listen to the numbers. do what you were going to do. Everybody shows up because there are signs that this is a very winnable race if everybody does their jobs. We're going to take a break. We're at the 20-minute mark. When we come back, they let Tim Walz talk, and I'm here for it. Right here on the SHR Media.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome to Reaver of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a sharp wit and clear discussion. Tune in every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a refreshing dose of reality as we fearlessly tackle the tough topics with no nonsense, just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com to discover where you can catch Reaver of Common Sense in action. He's here to amplify your inner logic. He may not always be polite, he may not always be refined, but one thing's for sure, he always tells it like it is.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And welcome back to the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHR Media Network simulcast with my wonderful friends over at KLRN. You need to check them folks out. They are fantastic. Say hi to my buddy Rick. Hey, we at SHR Media, and I can say as well for KLRN, always looking for good talent, good shows, good writers. If you are interested for SHR Media, you can email me, Sean, S-H-A-U-N, at shrmedia.com. Sean at shrmedia.com. If you like what I'm doing, and it's Friday, and I too like cocktails, be an angel, be a doll, be a sweetheart, be just a little snuggle buggle. Hit me up on Venmo. I'd really appreciate it. Got to keep the lights on around here. Got to keep the booze flowing. Got to keep the steak hot. We have a lot more to talk about. Tim Walz. I'll tell you right now, my favorite mistake that the Harris campaign is doing is letting Tim Walz talk. It makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside. So Tim Walz goes over to ABC one-on-one with Michael Strahan. And I actually don't dislike Michael Strahan. He was a good football player. I think he, as a person's comical. He's on a garbage network. They do garbage things, whatever. But so he goes over and he's going to interview Timmy. And by the way, if you follow Walz on X, he was cussing today in his tweets talking about manufacturing, which if you add that to the creepy Governor Whitmer video, which I'm going to try to get to, shows you that they're trying to appeal to the younger crowd. I'm going to cuss on my ex. Whitmer is going to do this weird TikTok porn thing. And that's what it was. That was porn. I don't care what anyone says. When I show it, you see. I know there are people out there who are trying to equate it to the Eucharist, Catholicism, all that. I understand where you're getting that from. I don't think that's it. I really don't. I just don't. I don't think they're that intelligent, if I'm being completely honest. That was like a weird submissive thing where they were trying to get, little soy boys like Harry Sisson to pee their pants. That's what that was, in my humblest of opinion, and the one that's also probably right about this. So here we go with the Waltz interview.
And you call yourself a knucklehead. Call yourself a knucklehead because you've made some statements that just aren't true. And the comment about weapons of war that I carried in war, which you didn't. You said that you were in Hong Kong during the Tiananmen Square massacre when you weren't. You kind of chalked it all up to bad grammar or getting the dates wrong.
Yeah.
But your opponents say you lied to make yourself look better. Do they have a point?
Well, look, 35 years ago, got the opportunity to be in Hong Kong, be in China, learned a lot about it, served 24 years in the National Guard, passionately, in an instance, talking about gun violence in schools, on an instance there, proud of the service that I've done, proud to be a teacher in that classroom, proud to have been very public all these years, and owning it when I, said, look, I was there in August of '89. And I think what you see here, you saw it in Minnesota. I've been elected 8 times here. These things have been very public for folks here. They see the results of things that we pass. We see a state that's a top 5 state for business. We see 3rd best state, top 3 state for raising a child. And we've got the best healthcare. And I think the policies, whether it be dealing with China and understanding China's human rights record, what you can be certain there is that Kamala Harris and I aren't going to, pick dictators on speed dial. Xi Jinping is doing a good job during COVID, as Donald Trump said. And I think those lessons learned over a lifetime of being very public, whether it's in the classroom or being elected.
I gotta, this is so nuts to me. So he's saying, and I apologize for my minuscule screw up with my screen. He's saying, in so many words, that the reason he was going over to China, essentially, look at how he was saying that out. I won't call Xi Jinping saying that he was doing a good job at COVID, like Trump did. I'm sure if you run back videos that every time Trump called it the China virus, Tim Waltz had to have made a comment about that and how that was horrible. But I digress. He tried to spin that into like he was like 4D chessing, learning so much about how like bad communism is, and that's why he's a better leader now. That's really what that was, right? I understand China. Why the 20 trips? I understand China. I've never been there. That's not what it was. You lied. You said you were in Tiananmen Square. You were not there. You said you carried weapons of war. The furthest you went was Italy. Okay. You lied at the debate about the abortion law. That's been proven time and again. But they just keep sending Timmy out there. And it's just delicious. I'll be honest with you. It is just so wonderful that they send Tim out there, because Tim Waltz is another one who, as they say, is redefining masculinity. They say it, I don't. And to prove it, they released, oh man, I'm going to warn you about this one really quick. This ad I'm about to play you, that is for the Harris administration. Surgeon General's warning. This ad has been known to lower testosterone amongst normal men. If you watch this ad, it is suggested that you immediately cook 3 steaks, have 6 eggs, and do a shot of bourbon to replace the testosterone that you were about to lose. I apologize. I am in advance. I am not a doctor, but I'm pretty sure that's how this is going to work. Oh, here we go.
I'm a man.
I'm a man.
I'm a man, man. And I'm man enough.
I'm man enough to enjoy a barrel-proof bourbon.
Neat. Man enough to cook my steak rare. Man enough to deadlift 500, then braid the out of my daughter's hair.
You think I'm afraid to rebuild a carburetor? I eat carburetors for breakfast.
I ain't afraid of bears. That's what bear hugs are for.
I'll tell you another thing I sure as shit am not afraid of. Women.
I'm not afraid of women.
I'm not afraid of women. They want to control their bodies? I say go for it.
They want to use IVF to start a family? I'm not afraid of families.
They want to be childless cat ladies? Have all the cats you want.
Woman wants to be president?
Well, I hope she has the guts to look me right in the eye and accept my full-throated endorsement.
Because I'm man enough to support women.
All right, hold
man
on.
Enough to know
Hold
what
on.
kind of donuts.
Hold on. Hold on.
Man enough to admit.
Hold on, please. Hold on, please. See, I'm gonna back this one up a little bit. Is this a joke? Is this this part? I mean, I know this whole thing's a joke, right? But this is my favorite part.
Well, I hope she has the guts to look me right in the eye and accept my full-throated endorsement.
Because I'm man enough.
Really? Your full-throated endorsement? She? I didn't make this. Hold on, just one more time, please. Just indulge me. I know. This.
Well, I hope she has the guts to look me right in the eye and accept my full-throated endorsement.
Because I'm man enough to support women. Man enough to know what kind of donuts I like.
Man enough to admit I'm lost, even when I refuse to ask for directions.
Man enough to not ban young women from reading Little Women.
Or one of those pants books that the sisters like.
I'm man enough to raw dog a flight. It sucked. Not worth it.
I'm man enough to be emotional in front of my wife.
In front of my kids.
In front of my horse.
I'm man enough to tell you that I cry at Love Actually.
Good Will Hunting.
West Side Story. That and Predator.
And I'm sick
That dude
of
ain't never
so-called
saw West
men
Side Story.
domineering, belittling, and controlling women just so they can feel more powerful.
That's not how my mama raised me.
I love women.
I love women who support their families.
Women who decide not to have families.
Women who take charge.
And I'm man enough to help them win.
Somebody thought this was a good idea. So, they put the little "not endorsed by anyone" at the end. But come on, who's spending that amount of money for that production? Come on. This is how they think they're going to close the gap with men. It's the worst thing I've ever seen. Ain't not one of those guys has ever spent time with women. I'm convinced. That's the fun part about being bald and not wearing my hat, is you can see me turn cherry red at stuff like this. It's amazing. Oh, it's so amazing. So, of course, they released that the same day. Ruthless Podcast, if you never check them out, they're awesome. Ruthless Podcast in general is awesome, but they're on X as well. Can't believe they actually thought that would. I got to move on. And they turn around. I'll just play the first few seconds of it because their clip is 10 minutes long. But they turn around and release their own video today with Senator J.D. Vance. And it's a very different feel about what guys do.
Welcome to Lake Michigan, where J.D. Vance joins the Ruthless Variety program for a friendly fishing competition with the fellas.
Here we go. All right.
Hey, what's up, man? Good to see you. I'm excited, man. Thank you guys for taking us out.
Of course.
Seriously.
Is everyone ready to depart?
I think we're ready to go.
Happy?
Do it. Do it.
You notice the difference? And if you watch the video, it's a great video. It's really, it's a good campaign video. The thing that I liked is that he brought his sons, but you see the difference, right? You see the difference on how one party treats things that men are interested in and the other party is. It is incredible to me. Incredible. I'm still not over that first damn video. It's I eat carburetors for breakfast. Dude, you eat a lot of things for breakfast. I'm not skinny. I am not thin. I am not a light person. That dude makes me look like an underwear model. Why did you give him the "I eat carburetors for breakfast" line? I mean, it's possible that was made to be more of a mockery than actually helpful. Like, maybe we're going to find out that that's like a punked moment, right? And the whole thing was just a goof. I hope that was it. I hope that's like totally what it was. They were spoofing white dudes for Harris, because that is the funniest crap ever. And nothing in there appealed to any man. And I said to you before, I said last week, I'll say it again. All these rallies, all these campaign ads, all of these town halls or whatever, they're really just to try to court the last few voters who haven't decided. We're less than a month from the election. Most people have already made their decisions, right? So that's what all this is for. And they really think that that's going to court undecided male voters. I can't imagine why they're bleeding males. Just bleeding males. And speaking of Kamala herself, she's another one. Between her and Tim, I don't know who I love to see talking more.
So when we think about what's at stake in this election, whoa, it's packed with some stuff. It's packed with some fundamental stuff. I say rather articulately.
First and foremost, did she say articulately? Because that actually would be comical if she said articulately. It's packed to lots of stuff. And I know, like, that's a clip. And here's the thing. Like, I'm not dumb. I get some of these are clips and stuff like that. But there's still no substance. Her biggest problem right now, Carville says this, anyone who's watched politics, this is a difficult thing. Her biggest problem right now is her communication. Her policies suck, but we've had presidents with policies that suck before. Communication has won them. Look at Obama. The guy did nothing. He was a 2-year senator. Nobody knew who he was until somebody said, we can do something with that dude. And they put him on camera. They tested him out. All of a sudden, he was getting huge response, because even though he's not as good at it now as we saw earlier, he's really not. But he was a great communicator, even if you don't like what he had to say. Right? I didn't like what he had to say, but he was able to breach walls and talk to groups that other candidates were. Right? He got his party to coalesce by his words. Now, we all know his words were evil with their intent as far as the Republic goes, but he still did that job. That is what they don't have in Kamala. This is why they hid Joe, because Joe couldn't do it either. They needed Joe for the name to run on. That's why they hid him during the campaign. They didn't have to hide him like they did, but we all know why. We were all calling it out then. Why? It's a no-brainer as to why they hid Joe, because his mental faculties were diminishing faster than egg salad in the sun. Right? He was going downhill. And they knew it, so they hid him. They didn't pull him in front of a camera. They tried to do this with Kamala, which is why the coup was planned as late as it was. They were looking for a reason, and it was a coup against his candidacy. I don't care what anybody says. They were looking for a reason. They got it at the debate. They wanted a short-term election for Kamala, because they knew Joe wasn't going to do it. Everybody knew Joe was not going to get them over the line. There was no questions asked. So they had to swap out. Who were they stuck with? Well, they could not overlook the sitting vice president, who was a black female. They just couldn't. Optics would not allow it. They painted themselves into that corner. So they were kind of stuck with Kamala. You think they wanted Kamala, the powers that be, and Democrats, after she was, I said this before and I'll say it again, she was polling less than herpes. They were talking about getting rid of her a couple weeks before she took over for Joe. This is not brain science, as I like to say. Rocket surgery. I know it's wrong. It's just a joke. Calm down, people. It's how horrible she is as a candidate. So they went short term. Maybe if we can protect her for a couple months, she won't have to open her mouth And the problem is the people are like, no, she needs to open her mouth because she hasn't ever gotten a vote. She won the nomination by default because they didn't allow anybody to contest it. And now they're stuck with her. And when she's opening her mouth, as we see over and over and over again, she's a nightmare. And they know she's a nightmare. But they have to keep throwing it out and roll the dice. And I'm convinced the powers that be in the Democratic Party are letting her ride or die. This is it. You're either going to do it or you're done. We're not going to run you ever again. You are not the future. You're not going to be the next person if you don't get elected. This is your only shot. So they went with the hide and seek play with her. That didn't work. Numbers were showing it was really bad optics. So they started bringing her out. Woo! Boy, do they wish they can go back to COVID. And my favorite part of them bringing her out, and I think you can all agree, has been the accents. Oh, the accents.
Well, first of all, thank you for the question, and I hope your family is okay and your home is okay.
Stop. Just stop. Y'all heard that, right? I said this last night on BZ when this one first went. You're doing okay. Your home is okay. Right? All of a sudden, she's a Latina. She's speaking with a Latin accent to her English words. Could you imagine any conservative, I don't care who we have on stage, doing this? It's racist. That's racist. I don't care what anyone says. You want to see true racism when you're talking to a group of people and you start using Spanglish because you think that's how they communicate. That's who she is. She's AstroTurf. I said this and I'll say it again. She's never had a thought of her own. Her whole career, she was told how to be, where to act. That's what Willie taught her. All the way up through the California Congress into as the Attorney General. Sorry, not the Congress, the administration, until she went to Attorney General. Right? As DA, she was told what to say, how to act. We know because we're getting her work reports as to how great of a coworker she was, and they're out there and they ain't good. Right? She was not a good ADA. She was a good candidate. She knew what to say because she was told what to say, when to say it because she was told when to say it, and how to say it. And now that she thinks she's the queen bee, she's not listening to anybody, and she's just winging it. Well, let me tell you something. Winging it ain't doing it. It's break time. I need a break. I got to get ready for my cocktail. Well, I'm ready for my cocktail. I got to get ready to share it with you. I am not done on Kamala because there's more from her thing on Univision last night. And let me tell you something, folks. It's embarrassing for everybody involved. We'll be right back here on the Edge of Liberty, SHR Media Network, KLRN.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome to River of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a sharp wit and clear discussion. Tune in every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a refreshing dose of reality as we fearlessly tackle the tough topics with no nonsense, just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com to discover where you can catch River of Common Sense in action. He's here to amplify your inner logic. He may not always be polite, he may not always be refined, but one thing's for sure, he always tells it like it is.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Oh yeah, baby, it's Friday. Thank you so much for joining me right here on the Edge of Liberty so far. It has been a wonderful show. I hope you agree. I hope the glare off my head isn't too bad. I'm Sean. I'm your host. I'm really sorry I look like this, but I don't have any choice. If you're enjoying the show, do me a favor. Buy me a cocktail right there. Don't be afraid. Don't be shy. If you're in any of the chat rooms, speak up. I know we're in the chat room on Rick's page, KLRN, on my X page, Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch. We're everywhere, baby. So as we were going to the break talking about Kamala just not communicating well and really insulting on a regular basis. This one, you could argue, is not as insulting because it's her heritage. Many people are saying that this was more of a Jamaican accent, but I'm going to play this one really quick for you.
Have you no empathy, man? You know, for the suffering of other people, have you no sense of purpose?
Have you no empathy, man? Now, I didn't pick up on Jamaican on that right away. Maybe my Jamaican's a little weak. I had a lot of Jamaican friends growing up. I know a lot of Jamaicans up in New England. But I was thinking like weird, aristocratic, rich English woman meets soccer mom. Like that's what I thought that accent was. But it just goes on to her AstroTurf nature. And I'm going to keep saying this, how AstroTurf that she is. Because she is. Everything about her is fake. Last night on her Univision town hall, which I played a clip earlier. If you haven't watched the whole thing, please do. Please tell your friends about it. It's just amazing. Saw this though, and this kind of made me laugh. Where is it? This is Kamala ordering a latte. You see right there, I'd like a medium iced latte with skim milk. Say thank you afterwards. Oh man, that made me laugh. But it's the ridiculousness that we're getting into. And how bad has it gotten for Kamala? Well, I'll tell you right now, 60 Minutes had to do a little editing. I'm going to play a 38-second clip here, and you tell me if something's different between these two clips.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
We're not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on.
That was it. That was the whole. I know, like I clipped like the last 3 seconds out. It's criminal. It's almost criminal, right? It's so bizarre to me that they would do that. And now you have everybody saying that you got to release the transcripts. Like Trump obviously is pushing it, but you know, I will say right now, I am not objective news. I'm a pundit. I'm a commentator. I talk about things. I'm not, if I'm interviewing somebody that is a legitimate interview, that's different. I try to do it from a negative standpoint or from a neutral standpoint, not a negative standpoint. Well, sometimes, but you were supposed to let that person's answer stand. You're supposed to let it stand. You're supposed to let it be what it is and just say, okay, right or wrong, that's the answer that you gave. And they did that for about 30 seconds until everybody was like, holy word salad, horrible answer. Once again, you were in a friendly place. You're on 60 Minutes. They're not playing gotcha media. He was just asking a legitimate question. That was a softball question. It's almost like the View question of what would you change, right? You have to know that question's coming if you're the candidate. You have to be prepared for it. It's not hard. And she gaffed it originally, so they chopped it up to make it look like she did, okay. And there are people voting for this. And I say it all the time. Are you just that anti-Trump, or are you stupid? And it's one or the other. It's one or the other. I'd rather you tell me you're anti-Trump because at least I understand where you're coming from. If you tell me that you're not like, oh, I'm not Orange Man bad, but here's all the reasons Orange Man is bad, then I'm just, yeah, whatever. And then it brings us to the question of Joe. There's been several speculative comments about things that Joe has been saying, and is he really trying to torpedo Kamala's campaign? It's a fair question because twice he's gone on stage, or he's done pressers when she's doing campaign speeches. There's the whole thing with DeSantis where he threw her under the bus. She said that DeSantis refused to take the call, and Biden came out, was like, no, he's great. We're communicating, like everything's fine. So I don't know. Like I'm still convinced that there is absolutely, and I know Trump said today in Aurora, but I agree. They do not like each other. They never liked each other. Remember, she called him a racist during the primaries. I said before, Joe made it obvious, hey, I'm going to pick a black female as my running mate. He picked Kamala to fill and check boxes. His words, not mine. Don't put that on me. Just reporting it. And I think between he and Jill, they're pissed at her. And I don't think it's I don't think it's as innocent as, how could you do this to me? Like, oh man, I thought you were my friend and you stabbed me in the back. No, I think it's more devious than that. I think it very much comes from a place as, how dare you after all we did for you? You were nothing when we found you. You couldn't even get out of the primary. And we elevated you all the way to vice president, and you held a coup with Pelosi and the others. Remember in that little coup, and remember Tim Walz met with Biden a few days after the disastrous campaign debate speech, and he came out and said, oh, he's fine. He was in on the coup too. I'm convinced he met with more than just Joe when he went to Washington that day. He was there for a reason, and it was because they knew then the coup was coming. So Joe, giving a press conference today, just help. Joe's just a helper, isn't he? He's just really helping everybody out. Hey, get up there. There it is.
I think those who have been spreading these lies to try to undermine the opposition are going to pay a price for it.
They're going to pay a price for it, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. You're going to pay a price for spreading these lies. Sounds like an odd threat to the American people, don't you think? Well, we knew Joe was in the process. Remember when Joe was telling us that we couldn't stop F-16s with AR-15s and blah, 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 blah. How many times he's threatened the American people, and the polls at the time went crazy. He's horrible. You can't threaten the American people. What the hell's wrong with you? Right? Joe knows what he's doing. Or Jill knows. Somebody knows. And now he's going to throw out that threat to the American people. It's still the Biden-Harris administration. It's just, I'm telling you, I'm convinced when he says stuff like that, it is to hurt her numbers. It really is. Last thing, let's clean some house up real quick. I know I'm probably going to run a few minutes over just because I have a few things I want to get to. Talk about immigration. This is a quick one. That Bill Malugin over at Fox News, he posted this today. This is kind of a big one when we're talking about Eagle Pass, Texas, if you can see it. Yep. DPS troopers arrest a large group of 165 illegal immigrants near Eagle Pass. More than a dozen special interest aliens from Iran, Egypt, and the Congo. So, the border's working out awesome still, isn't it? Special interest, for those who don't know, means that they have some sort of nexus to terrorism or terrorist people. If you go, I posted on one of my articles on shrmedia.com. When I explained what special interests were, I went and I pulled the exact language from the DHS website. But that's what it means. Over a dozen that were caught were special interests. So how many weren't caught? That's a question we have to keep asking ourselves. Let's see. I'm trying to decide which story I want to go with. Okay. One of the other things, too, we're talking about, I got this a lot this week on X. People arguing about, the FBI said the crime stats are down. And I'm going to tell you why those books are cooked, and I'm going to do it with proof right here, right now. You see this? This is called the MarshallProject.org. The Marshall Project's a nonprofit journalism about criminal justice. If you go to this page, it shows you that the FBI crime data is still incomplete and why and how. It shows you in the green here on the left all the agencies that participate in the FBI crime stats. The ones in the middle in the gray area, the ones who partially participate, 4,664 agencies submitted less than 12 months of data. This is in 2022, but this report was just released in 2023. It still applies today. These submissions are not changing all that rapidly because the FBI changed how they receive the information and how you send the information. And it's hard for some agencies to get that data collected properly, sent over properly, because if it's not sent over properly, they just don't upload it. So agencies that participated, 8,356. Agencies that only partially participated, 4,464. Over in the brown, did not participate, 6,097 agencies. There are two agencies that you can not see probably on screen, but if you look at the map, you can. On the East Coast is an arrow reporting to the NYPD as one of the agencies that doesn't report full data. And on the left coast, LAPD. So when they tell you, and if you look under here, it says for 2024 election season, we've updated this reporting to cover the latest changes and debates. So when people tell you about the FBI crime and, crime's down, crime's only down because certain things aren't being reported. When the FBI changed their reporting profiles, I think it was 2021, 2022, it was just a couple of years ago, these agencies were not reporting because of that. So crime isn't down. What's reported is down. It's absolutely ridiculous. Somebody tried to show me today homicide rate for New York is down like 1 per every 100,000 from 6 to 5, but it's up for the previous years from 4. So it's still not down. It's up. And 2024, I don't know if you know this, seemingly a violent year. So it'll be interesting to see what it's going to play out to be as the year rolls out. Look at Chicago. Go to heyjackass.com. We cite that site all the time here on the SHR Media Network. You tell me. You tell me. All right, so let's just say, I'm not going to do that one. We're going to end on a positive note. I got a couple minutes to go. Let's just say that you had a lot of money and an interest in geeky stuff. I have an interest in geeky stuff. I do not have a lot of money. Anyone who knows you that will tell me, or anyone who knows me will tell you that, I should say. But yeah, if you have some money laying around and you want something fun to do, or, you want to be petrified living in your own home, you could get yourself Elon Musk.
See that?
This is a robot.
Want to get a photo?
Pouring
Yeah, for sure.
drinks.
Let's do it. Little video.
What was that movie with Will Smith? Admittedly, it's a good pour. He didn't do a bad job pouring it. I don't want to call it he. It's just weird. But yeah, I've seen iRobot, or I think was it an iRobot? I think it was iRobot. I forget the name of that. But I've also seen Terminator and other ones. I understand that there is a future coming, and I understand, even if I don't necessarily like it, that AI and robots are going to be a part of it. But I do you like it? Don't you like it? I don't know. At the number 2 against tyranny, tell me what you think. It freaks me out a little bit. I'm not going to lie. And maybe it's just because my brain's jaded from movies. But I also remember that there was, what was it? The AI robot that was in Russia a couple years ago, maybe 2 years ago now, that became very self-aware and tried to escape from the facility that it was being held in. I'm not making that up. I am 100% being honest for that. So it's time for the cocktail of the week. We're at the end of the show, ladies and gentlemen. As you know, as I've said before, I enjoy a straight bourbon in the cup. Sometimes, every once in a while, throw a rock in. I have a whiskey grail that I absolutely love and adore. They do not endorse me. They've not paid me. I love whiskey grail. Whiskey grail. It's just awesome. I have a wooden keg in my house that I use to age my bourbon in. I like my bourbon. I'm good with bourbon, but I still like a cocktail every once in a while. And sometimes I like to go old school, and this is a variation of one of the old school ones I like. I like a Bouvardier, an old Bouvardier. And it's essentially, as the website says, it's a Negroni, but it's whiskey. I use bourbon. Use a high proof strong bourbon. It comes out wonderfully instead of gin. And what's in a Negroni? This is the simplest recipe, but it's so good. It says you can use makers. You can use whatever you want. I make this, and I'll tell you right now, if you've never had one, just double it off the start. Just double it off the start. You do it in a mixing glass. You can shake it, but it gets real watery real quick. I like to do a mixing glass, mix it until the outside's cold, and pour it. 1.5 ounces of bourbon, you do 3. 3/4 of an ounce of a sweet vermouth, you do a 1.5. And 3/4 of an ounce of Campari, 1.5. Orange peel for garnish if you want. Shake it. I'm sorry, rephrase that. Stir that bad boy up. Wait till that mixing glass gets nice and frosty. Strain it out. You can garnish it if you want with an orange twist. If you have a good orange, if you're a cocktail mixologist type person, then you probably already know this recipe, but that little bit of a garnish does actually help. And I have both ingredients behind me, and I will be enjoying both ingredients probably before the credits are done. Maybe a second or two after that. But that's it for the week, folks. Try it out at Bouvardier. If you've never had one, absolutely try one out. It's really good. It's nice and refreshing. I know I said I was going to do a fall cocktail on BZ show last night, something a little mapley, a little rich, but I was craving a Bouvardier today, and I was like, it's an old 20s drink. Not a lot of people make it anymore. Give it a shot. Like I said, if you like bourbon, if you like something, you got to mix it up every once in a while. Not a bad way to mix it up. Folks, that's it for me here on the Edge of Liberty, right here on the SHR Media Network. Thank you so much for joining me, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. It's Friday. It was a hard week. You were rushing your way through the week. And now you're here. The struggle is over. The cocktails begin. Enjoy your weekend. I will be back Monday, noon Pacific, 3 on the East Coast, right here on the SHR Media Network. Also, with my good friends over at KLRN, who I am absolutely just so stoked to be a part of. If you don't, I have a bunch of them that follow me on X now. If you're looking to reach out to them or find them, you can search for KLRN. Rick Robinson, Roddy Rick 73 is another great person to follow. He has all the links to it. There's so many great things they're doing over there. You got to check them out. Audio, written, like they're just nailing it over there. So give them a shot too, please. By all accounts, please give them a shot. If you enjoy the Bouvardier, if you enjoy anything I said or any cocktail that I make or anything of my flappy mouth will throw at you during a show, please be afraid to don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. I need a cocktail to help me out. I will see you Monday. I hope you have a great rest of your
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Edge of Liberty. Join me right here on the SHR Media Network every Monday and Friday, 12 on the Pacific, 3 on the East Coast. On this show, we'll discuss news, politics, the government, how cranky we are about the government, and more. If you want to hear hard talk, good interviews, sarcasm, bad jokes, and oh God, that really is me in a nutshell. Either way, check me out right here on the Edge of Liberty every Monday and Friday, 12 Pacific, 3 on the East, on the SHR Media Network.